The dust hadn't settled from the morning wind when Tabitha Preston felt her arms trembling under the weight of the water buckets, her vision blurring at the edges as the July heat of 1878 beat down on her like a punishment from above. She had made it perhaps 50 yards from the well in Pueblo, Colorado, when her knees threatened to buckle, and she wondered if pride was truly worth collapsing face first into the dirt street, where everyone could see the schoolteacher who couldn't even manage 2 buckets of water. The weight pulled at her shoulders, the wooden yoke digging into her neck despite the padding she had wrapped around it. Her father had always carried the water before he passed last winter, and her brother had taken over the duty until he left for the silver mines in Leadville 3 months ago. Now it was just Tabitha in the small house at the edge of town, teaching children their letters during the day and trying to manage everything else in the hours between. Her arms shook violently now, water sloshing over the rims and soaking her already damp dress. She would have to stop. There was no shame in it, she told herself, even as her cheeks burned at the thought of setting the buckets down right here in the middle of the street where anyone could see her struggle. "Those look heavier than they ought to be," a voice said from somewhere to her left, deep and gentle in a way that made her look up despite herself. The man walking toward her was tall, with dark hair that curled slightly at the edges beneath a worn hat, and eyes the color of creek water in spring. He wore the practical clothes of a ranch hand, dusty from travel, with a bandana tied loosely around his neck. He couldn't have been much older than her own 22 years, perhaps 25 at most, and he was looking at her with concern rather than amusement. "I can manage," Tabitha said, even as her voice came out strained and breathless. "I am sure you can," he replied, moving closer. "But I am wondering why you should have to when I am standing right here with 2 perfectly good arms doing nothing useful." Before she could protest, he lifted the yoke from her shoulders, taking the full weight of both buckets as though they contained nothing more than air. The relief was immediate and embarrassing. Tabitha's arms dropped to her sides, numb and aching. "I am staying just down that way," she said, pointing toward the small cluster of houses near the schoolhouse. "But truly, sir, you do not need to trouble yourself." "No trouble at all," he said, adjusting his grip on the yoke. "And my name is Cole Mercer. I just rode in from Wyoming, looking for work on one of the ranches hereabouts." "Tabitha Preston," she said, brushing a strand of damp hair from her forehead. "I teach at the schoolhouse. The summer term just ended last week." They walked together down the dusty street, and Tabitha found herself acutely aware of the eyes watching them from windows and doorways. Pueblo was small enough that a stranger helping the schoolteacher carry water would be discussed over supper in every household by evening. She should have cared more about that, perhaps, but the relief in her shoulders and the easy way Cole Mercer walked beside her made it difficult to worry about gossip. "Wyoming is a fair distance," she said, partly to fill the silence and partly because she genuinely wanted to know. "What brings you all the way to Colorado?" "Work dried up on the ranch where I had been staying," Cole said. "The owner died, and his son decided to sell off most of the cattle and move back east. Figured I would head south, see what opportunities might present themselves." "There are several ranches nearby," Tabitha offered. "The Patterson spread is the largest, about 10 miles west. They are always looking for hands from what I hear." "That is good to know," Cole said, "though I confess I am in no great hurry. Nice town you have here." They had reached her house now, a modest wooden structure with a small porch and a vegetable garden that was managing to survive despite her inexpert care. Cole followed her around to the back, where she kept the large barrel that held her water supply. "Just pour them in there," Tabitha said, gesturing to the barrel. Cole lifted the buckets easily and emptied them, the water splashing and settling. When he turned back to her, there was something in his expression that made her heart beat a little faster. "I noticed you were struggling quite a bit," he said carefully. "Is there no one to help you with the heavier tasks?" Pride made her want to lie, but something about his genuine concern stopped her. "My father passed last winter and my brother went to work the mines. It is just me now." Cole set the buckets down gently. "I am sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Tabitha said quietly. "I manage well enough most of the time." "I am sure you do," Cole said, "but managing and living are different things, I think." Before she could respond to that, he tipped his hat. "I should let you get on with your day, Miss Preston. Thank you for the conversation and the information about the ranches." "Thank you for carrying the water," Tabitha said. "I truly appreciate it." She watched him walk back down the road toward the center of town, his gait easy and unhurried. Something in her chest felt lighter than it had in months, though she could not quite put a name to the feeling. The next morning, Tabitha woke to find her wood pile had been restocked, the logs split and stacked with obvious care. She stood on her back porch in her dressing gown and shawl, staring at the neat pile and trying to remember if she had mentioned needing wood. She had not, which meant someone had simply noticed and decided to help. She knew without asking who that someone had been. When she walked to the general store that afternoon to purchase thread and a few other necessities, she found Cole Mercer loading supplies into a wagon marked with the Patterson Ranch brand. "Miss Preston," he said, touching the brim of his hat in greeting. "Mr. Mercer," she replied, unable to keep the smile from her face. "I see you found employment. Started this morning," he said. "Mr. Patterson is a fair man from what I can tell so far. Gave me a job on the spot when I rode out there yesterday afternoon." "I am glad," Tabitha said. Then more quietly, "Thank you for the wood." He looked at her for a long moment, something warm and understanding in his expression. "You are welcome. You did not have to do that." "I know," Cole said simply. "I wanted to." Tabitha felt her cheeks warm, but she did not look away. "Will you be staying in town or on the ranch?" "The ranch, mostly. But I will have reason to come to town for supplies and such. Saturday evenings, usually." "The church holds a social on Saturday evenings," Tabitha heard herself say. "There is supper and sometimes dancing." "You would be welcome if you wanted to come." Cole's smile was genuine and reached his eyes. "I would like that very much." She thought about him more than she should have over the next few days. While she tended her garden and mended her dresses, and read the books she had borrowed from the small town library, Cole Mercer's face kept appearing in her mind. The gentle way he had lifted the burden from her shoulders. The quiet understanding in his voice when she told him about her father and brother. The fact that he had split wood for her without being asked, without expecting anything in return. Saturday arrived warm and clear. Tabitha spent longer than usual deciding what to wear, finally settling on her blue cotton dress with the small white flowers. It was not fancy, but it was one of her better dresses, and the color brought out her eyes. She braided her brown hair and pinned it up, leaving a few softer pieces to frame her face. The church social was already underway when she arrived, the sound of conversation and laughter spilling out into the evening air. Long tables had been set up outside under the cottonwood trees, covered with dishes that the townspeople had brought to share. Lanterns hung from branches, ready to be lit when darkness fell. Tabitha had brought a berry cobbler made from the wild raspberries she had picked along the creek. She set it on the dessert table and turned to survey the gathering, trying not to be too obvious about searching for a particular face. "Looking for someone?" Martha Cunningham asked, appearing at her elbow with a knowing smile. Martha was the banker's wife, a kind woman in her 40s who had taken Tabitha under her wing after her father died. "Just seeing who is here," Tabitha said, which was not entirely a lie. "There is a new ranch hand from the Patterson place," Martha said, her eyes twinkling. "Quite handsome. I heard he helped you carry water earlier this week." "News travels fast," Tabitha said dryly. "Small town, dear. You know how it is." Martha patted her arm. "He is over by the drinks table, if you were wondering. Been looking toward the road every few minutes for the past quarter hour." Tabitha's heart lifted. "Has he? Go on," Martha said with a gentle push. "Do not keep the poor man waiting." Cole was indeed standing by the drinks table, holding a cup of lemonade and looking distinctly out of place among the clusters of chattering townspeople. His face lit up when he saw Tabitha approaching, and she felt that now familiar flutter in her chest. "Miss Preston," he said, "you look lovely." "Thank you," she said, pleased by the sincerity in his voice. "I am glad you could come." "Would not have missed it," Cole said. "Though I confess, I do not know many people here yet." "I can remedy that," Tabitha said, and spent the next half hour introducing him to her neighbors and acquaintances. Cole was polite and friendly with everyone, but his attention kept returning to her, as though she was the only person he truly wanted to talk to. When the fiddlers started playing, and couples began to dance on the grass, Cole set down his cup and held out his hand. "Would you dance with me?" Tabitha placed her hand in his, feeling the calluses on his palm, the strength in his fingers as they closed gently around hers. "I would love to." He led her to where others were dancing, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers at shoulder height. He moved well, confident but not showy, guiding her through the steps with an ease that suggested he had done this before. "You dance well," Tabitha said as they turned. "My mother insisted I learn," Cole said. "She said no son of hers would grow up not knowing how to properly dance with a lady." "Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She was," Cole said, and the past tense told Tabitha everything she needed to know. "She passed when I was 17. Fever took her quick." "I am sorry," Tabitha said softly. "It was a long time ago," Cole said, "but thank you. What about your mother?" "She died when I was born," Tabitha said. "I never knew her. My father raised me with help from his sister until she married and moved to Kansas." They danced in comfortable silence for a while, the music washing over them, the scent of evening flowers and lamp oil mingling in the air. Other couples swirled around them, but Tabitha found it easy to focus only on Cole, on the way he looked at her as though she was someone precious. "Can I tell you something?" Cole said as the song wound down. "Of course." "I have not been able to stop thinking about you since I carried those buckets," he said. "I know we have only just met, and maybe it is too soon to say such things, but I believe in honesty." Tabitha's breath caught. "I have been thinking about you too." His smile was like sunrise. "Then perhaps I could call on you properly. Take you for a buggy ride next Sunday if you are free." "I would like that very much," Tabitha said. The next week passed in a haze of anticipation. Tabitha found herself smiling at odd moments, thinking of Cole's smile, the feel of his hand at her waist as they danced. She prepared lessons for the upcoming school year with more enthusiasm than usual, cleaned her house until it shone, and picked fresh flowers for the table. On Sunday afternoon, Cole arrived right on time, driving a buggy borrowed from the Patterson ranch. He looked freshly scrubbed, his hair still damp at the edges, wearing what was clearly his best shirt. "You look beautiful," he said as Tabitha stepped out onto the porch, wearing her green dress with the lace collar. "You clean up rather well yourself," she replied, taking the hand he offered to help her into the buggy. They drove out of town toward the foothills, where the land rolled in gentle waves and wildflowers dotted the grassland in bursts of yellow and purple. Cole had packed a basket with food from the ranch kitchen, and they found a spot near a stand of cottonwoods where a small creek burbled over smooth stones. Tabitha spread out the blanket she had brought while Cole unpacked the basket, revealing fried chicken, fresh bread, cheese, and apples. "This is lovely," Tabitha said, settling onto the blanket and accepting the plate he handed her. "I wanted to do something nice," Cole said, sitting beside her. "You have had to do so much on your own. Figured you deserved an afternoon where someone else did the work." Tabitha felt tears prick at her eyes, unexpected and unwelcome. She blinked them away quickly, but not before Cole noticed. "Did I say something wrong?" he asked, concern flooding his face. "No," Tabitha said, managing a smile. "Just the opposite. I have been managing on my own for so long, trying to prove I could do it, that I forgot what it felt like to have someone want to take care of me, even in small ways." Cole reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. When she did not, he cupped her cheek with his hand, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped despite her best efforts. "You are one of the strongest people I have ever met," he said quietly, "but strength does not mean doing everything alone." "I am learning that," Tabitha whispered. They ate slowly, talking about everything and nothing. Cole told her about growing up on a small farm in Missouri, learning to ride before he could properly walk, moving west after his mother died because his father could not bear to stay in the house where she had lived. He spoke of working on various ranches, learning cattle and horses, saving what money he could with no clear goal beyond surviving to the next season. Tabitha told him about her childhood in Pueblo, about learning to read from her father, who had been a clerk before his hands got too shaky to write properly. About deciding to become a teacher because she loved books and learning and wanted to share that with others. About the loneliness of the past year, trying to fill the spaces her father and brother had left behind. "You hear from your brother?" Cole asked. "A letter every month or so," Tabitha said. "He says the mine is doing well, that he is saving money. He wants to buy a piece of land eventually, maybe start a ranch of his own." "Does he know how hard things have been for you?" Tabitha looked down at her hands. "I have not told him. He would only worry, or worse, feel obligated to come back when he is finally making something of himself." "That is kind of you," Cole said. "But you deserve support too. I have managed." "You keep saying that," Cole said gently. "But managing is not the same as thriving." Tabitha looked at him, really looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, the genuine care. "You are the first person in a very long time who has seen that." "Then everyone else has not been paying proper attention," Cole said. After they finished eating, they walked along the creek, Cole offering his arm to steady her over the rougher terrain. The afternoon sun slanted golden through the trees, and somewhere a meadowlark was singing its complicated song. "Can I ask you something?" Tabitha said. "Anything." "Why did you help me that day? Truly, you did not know me." Cole was quiet for a moment, considering. "My mother struggled after my father started drinking. He was not a mean drunk, just absent. She did everything, kept the farm running, raised me, and never complained. But I could see how tired she was, how heavy everything weighed on her. I was young, but I helped where I could. After she died, I swore I would never walk past someone struggling if there was something I could do to help." "That is a good way to live," Tabitha said softly. "It is the only way I know how," Cole replied. "But I should be honest with you about something else." "What is that?" "The moment I saw you, before I even noticed the buckets, I thought you were the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. Helping you was the right thing to do, but asking to walk you home was entirely selfish." Tabitha laughed, surprised and delighted. "That is quite an admission." "I told you, I believe in honesty." They had stopped walking, standing now in the dappled shade of the cottonwoods. The creek murmured beside them, and the breeze carried the scent of prairie grass and wildflowers. Cole was looking at her with such open affection that it made her brave. "I thought you were handsome too," she said, "and kind. That combination is rarer than it should be." "Tabitha," Cole said her name like a prayer. "I know we have only known each other a short time, but I would very much like to court you properly if you are willing. I want to get to know everything about you. I want to be the person you lean on when things are hard, and the person you share good news with first. I want, more than I have wanted anything in a very long time, to see where this might lead." Tabitha's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he must be able to hear it. "I want that too." Cole smiled, that beautiful sunrise smile, and slowly leaned down. He paused when he was close enough that she could feel his breath on her lips, giving her one last chance to pull away. Instead, Tabitha closed the distance between them, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that felt like coming home. It was gentle and sweet, his hands coming up to cradle her face as though she was something infinitely precious. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "I am falling in love with you," he whispered. "I probably already have." "I am falling in love with you too," Tabitha whispered back. "It terrifies me." "Me too," Cole admitted. "But I think the best things always do." Over the following weeks, Cole came to town every Saturday, and sometimes on Wednesday evenings when he could get away from the ranch. They took walks together, attended church socials, sat on her porch in the evening talking until the stars came out. Cole fixed things around her house without being asked, mending a loose step, replacing a cracked window pane, shoring up the chicken coop that had been listing to one side. Tabitha cooked meals for him, learning what he liked and taking pleasure in the way his face lit up when she tried a new recipe. She mended his shirts when she noticed they were worn, and listened when he talked about his work at the ranch, the horses he was training, the cattle drives he would be going on in the fall. They learned each other slowly and carefully, like people who understood that what they had was worth protecting. Cole told her about his dreams of having his own small ranch someday. Nothing grand, just enough land to raise horses and maybe some cattle. Tabitha shared her love of teaching, but also her secret wish to write stories, something she had never told anyone before. "Why have you never tried?" Cole asked one evening as they sat on her porch swing, watching fireflies blink in the gathering darkness. "I would not know where to start," Tabitha admitted. "And I suppose I always thought it was foolish, wanting to write stories when there are practical things to be done." "I do not think it is foolish at all," Cole said. "Everyone needs beauty in their lives, needs stories. You could give people that." "Maybe someday," Tabitha said, but his words planted a seed that she found herself thinking about more and more. In late August, a letter arrived from her brother James. Tabitha read it sitting at her kitchen table, Cole across from her drinking coffee after helping her repair the back fence. "What does he say?" Cole asked, noticing her expression. "He is coming home," Tabitha said, both pleased and anxious. "Just for a visit, but he will be here next week. He says he has news." "That is good, is it not?" "Yes," Tabitha said. "I just worry what he will think about us. He can be protective." Cole reached across the table and took her hand. "I plan to ask his permission to continue courting you. I should have asked before now, but with him being away, I wrote him a letter last week actually. Told him my intentions were honorable and serious." Tabitha stared at him. "You wrote to James." "It seemed the respectful thing to do," Cole said. "Your brother is your closest family. I wanted him to know that I was not trifling with you, that I care deeply for you and want a future together." "What if he says no?" "Then I would be heartbroken but respectful of his wishes," Cole said. "But I would also keep trying to prove myself worthy until he changed his mind." Tabitha squeezed his hand, love for this thoughtful, honorable man nearly overwhelming her. "How did I get so lucky to have you walk down that street on that particular day? I think I am the lucky one, Cole said. James Preston arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, stepping off the train with a new confidence in his bearing and money enough to stay at the small hotel. He was 24, 2 years older than Tabitha, with the same brown hair and blue eyes, though his face had tanned dark from working outside. Tabitha met him at the train station, and he swept her into a hug that lifted her feet off the ground. "You look good," he said, setting her down and studying her face. "Happy. Happier than when I left." "I am," Tabitha admitted. "There is someone I want you to meet." "The cowboy who has been courting you," James said, his expression hard to read. "He wrote to you." "He did," James said. "Long letter, very respectful. Told me all about himself and how he met you and what his intentions were. I appreciated that." And Tabitha held her breath. "And I want to meet him myself before I give any answers," James said, but his eyes were kind. "Though any man who takes the time to write a proper letter is starting from a good place." They walked back to Tabitha's house together, James exclaiming over how well she had maintained it, though Tabitha quietly credited much of that to Cole's help. She made coffee, and they sat at the kitchen table, catching up properly. James told her about the mine, the silver vein they had hit that meant bonuses for all the workers. He had saved nearly every penny he earned, he said, and now had enough to think about next steps. "I am thinking of buying land," he said. "Maybe not right away, but soon. I could start a ranch, run cattle, make something permanent." "That sounds wonderful," Tabitha said sincerely. "I want you to be taken care of, though," James said, his expression serious. "That is why I have been working so hard, so you would never have to struggle." "I know that," Tabitha said. "And I am grateful. But James, I have been managing, and now I have Cole helping too. I am not alone anymore." "Tell me about him," James said, so Tabitha did. She told him about the buckets and how Cole had carried them without hesitation. About the wood he had split, the repairs he had made, the gentle way he treated her. About his dreams and his honesty and the way she felt when she was with him. "You love him," James said. It was not a question. "I do," Tabitha said. "Very much." "Then I look forward to meeting him properly," James said. Cole came to dinner that evening, arriving early with flowers for Tabitha and a bottle of good whiskey for James. He shook James's hand firmly, looking him straight in the eye. "Mr. Preston," he said. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "Mr. Mercer," James replied. "My sister speaks highly of you." "I hope to live up to her good opinion," Cole said. They sat down to dinner, and Tabitha watched anxiously as the two most important men in her life sized each other up. But her worry was needless. Cole was respectful but not obsequious, answering James's questions honestly and directly. He spoke about his work, his savings, his plans for the future. He did not shy away from admitting he wanted to marry Tabitha, given time and her agreement. "I love your sister," Cole said plainly. "She is the finest person I have ever known. I would spend the rest of my life trying to make her happy and provide for her if she will have me." James was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "I can see you are sincere. And Tabitha is clearly happy with you. That matters more to me than anything else." "So you approve?" Tabitha asked, hardly daring to hope. "I approve of you continuing to court," James said. "Let us not rush into anything, but yes, I approve. He seems like a good man, Tabby." Tabitha felt tears of relief sting her eyes. Cole reached under the table and squeezed her hand. The next few days passed pleasantly. James stayed in town, spending time with Tabitha and getting to know Cole better. They went riding together, the three of them, out into the foothills where the aspens were just starting to turn gold at the edges. James told stories about their childhood, embarrassing Tabitha and making Cole laugh. On Sunday, they all attended church together, and afterward, the church social. Cole danced with Tabitha, and she noticed several of the older women nodding approvingly. Pueblo had taken Cole to heart over the past months, seeing how hard he worked and how well he treated their schoolteacher. The evening before James was set to return to the mines, he pulled Cole aside while Tabitha was in the kitchen making coffee. "I want to give you something," James said, pulling an envelope from his pocket. "I have been saving money to buy land, but I want you to have half of it." Cole stared at him. "Mr. Preston, I cannot accept that." "You can and you will," James said firmly. "You have been caring for my sister, helping her in ways I should have been here to do. This money, combined with whatever you have saved, should be enough to make a down payment on a piece of land. You could start that ranch you want." "Why would you do this?" Cole asked, clearly overwhelmed. "Because I can see that you are going to be family," James said simply. "And because I want my sister to have a good life, a stable life, a house of her own and a husband who can provide for her. This helps make that happen sooner rather than later." Cole's eyes were suspiciously bright. "I do not know what to say." "Say you will take care of her," James said. "That is all I need to hear. Always," Cole promised, "for the rest of my life." When James told Tabitha what he had done, she cried and hugged her brother so tightly he laughed. "You have done too much," she said through her tears. "I have done exactly what I wanted to do," James corrected her. "Make sure the people I love are taken care of." After James returned to the mines, life settled into a new rhythm. Cole continued working at the Patterson Ranch but spent every free moment looking at available land with an eye toward purchase. Tabitha started the new school year with 23 students, ranging in age from 5 to 14, and found joy in teaching them despite the long days. In October, Cole found the perfect piece of land, 80 acres about 5 miles outside of town, with a creek running through it and enough grazing land for a modest herd. There was already a small house on the property, rough but sound, and a barn that needed some work but was salvageable. "Come see it with me," Cole said one Saturday morning, his eyes alight with excitement. They rode out together, and Tabitha fell in love with the place immediately. The house sat in a small valley, protected from the worst of the wind, with cottonwoods along the creek and a view of the mountains to the west. The land rolled gently, covered in good grass, and there was plenty of room to expand if they wanted to in the future. "What do you think?" Cole asked as they stood on the porch of the little house. "I think it is perfect," Tabitha said honestly. Cole turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. "Tabitha Preston, I know we have only known each other a few months, but they have been the best months of my life. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love another person. I want to buy this land and build a life here, but only if you will be part of it." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring, simple gold with a small blue stone. "Will you marry me?" Cole asked. "Will you be my wife and my partner and the person I wake up next to every morning for the rest of my life?" Tabitha was crying now, happy tears that she made no effort to hide. "Yes," she said. "Yes, absolutely yes." Cole slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed her, deep and loving, right there on the porch of what would become their home. They were married in November, a small ceremony at the church in Pueblo with half the town in attendance. James came back from the mines for the occasion, proud and happy to walk his sister down the aisle. Martha Cunningham cried openly, and even some of the rougher ranchers wiped at their eyes when Cole recited his vows in a clear, strong voice. "I promise to love you in all things," he said. "To support your dreams, to carry your burdens when they are too heavy, and to build a life with you that honors us both. You are my heart, Tabitha. You are my home." Tabitha's vows were equally heartfelt. "I promise to stand beside you through all of life's seasons. To be your partner in joy and in struggle. to love you with everything I am for all the days we are given. You came into my life when I needed you most, and you showed me what it means to be truly seen and valued. I love you, Cole Mercer, and I will love you until my last breath. The reception was held at the church hall, with more food than 100 people could eat and music that lasted well into the evening. Cole and Tabitha danced the first dance, then were swept up in the celebration as friends and neighbors congratulated them and wished them well. As the evening wound down, they drove out to their new home in a buggy decorated with ribbons and tin cans, calling out thanks and goodbyes to the crowd that had gathered to see them off. The house was small but clean, and Cole had spent the past weeks making it as comfortable as possible. There was a real bed with a quilt that Martha had helped make, curtains on the windows that Tabitha had sewn, and a fire already burning in the hearth to ward off the November cold. "Welcome home, Mrs. Mercer," Cole said, carrying her over the threshold as tradition demanded. "It sounds so strange," Tabitha said, laughing. "Mrs. Mercer." "You will get used to it," Cole promised, setting her down gently. "We have the rest of our lives." That night, they celebrated their marriage in the warmth and privacy of their own home, learning each other in new ways, whispering promises and declarations in the darkness. It was tender and passionate, and everything Tabitha had hoped it would be, made more meaningful by the depth of love they had built over the past months. In the morning, they woke tangled together, sunlight streaming through the window, and Tabitha felt a completeness she had never experienced before. She had a home, a partner, a future full of possibility. Cole opened his eyes and smiled at her. "Good morning, my wife." "Good morning, my husband," Tabitha replied, the words feeling more natural already. They spent the first weeks of marriage settling into their new life together. Cole continued working at the Patterson Ranch while slowly building up their own herd with cattle he purchased with his savings. Tabitha taught during the week and spent her evenings and weekends helping with the ranch work, learning about cattle and horses despite having grown up in town. She discovered she was stronger than she had thought, capable of more than she had imagined. But the difference now was that she did not have to do it alone. When tasks were too heavy or difficult, Cole was there to help, just as she was there to help him with the accounts and the planning, using her education to benefit them both. Winter came hard that year, with snow piling high and temperatures dropping well below freezing. But their house was snug, and they had laid in plenty of supplies. On the coldest nights, they huddled together by the fire, reading aloud from books Tabitha had brought from her father's collection, or simply talking about their hopes for the future. "I want to expand the herd come spring," Cole said one evening, whittling a piece of wood into what was becoming a chess piece. "If we can get through winter without losing too many head, we should be in good shape to buy more. How many are you thinking?" Tabitha asked, looking up from the letter she was writing to James. "Maybe 10 more cows, a good bull. That would give us a breeding foundation. We can afford that if we are careful," Cole said. "And if you are still willing to teach through spring, your income makes a real difference." "I love teaching," Tabitha said. "I am happy to continue." "I know it is not the most exciting life," Cole said, setting down his whittling. "Nothing fancy or grand." Tabitha moved to sit beside him, taking his hand. "Cole Mercer, this is exactly the life I want. Building something with you, working toward a future together. I do not need fancy or grand. I need this. I need you." He kissed her then, soft and sweet. "I need you too, every single day." Spring arrived slowly, the snow melting in stages, revealing the brown grass underneath. As the weather warmed, their cattle began to fatten on the new growth, and Cole spent long days riding the range, checking fence lines and moving the herd to better grazing. Tabitha finished the school year in early June, and by then she had news of her own. She told Cole one evening after supper, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset paint the mountains orange and pink. "I have been feeling strange lately," she said. "Sick in the mornings, tired even when I have had plenty of sleep." Cole looked at her, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Tabitha, are you saying?" "I think I am with child," she said, both nervous and excited. "I visited the doctor in town yesterday to be sure. He confirmed it. We are going to have a baby in early winter." Cole let out a whoop of joy that probably carried all the way to their nearest neighbor 3 miles away. He swept her into his arms, careful even in his excitement, and spun her around once before setting her down and cupping her face in his hands. "We are going to be parents," he said, wonder in his voice. "We are," Tabitha confirmed, tears of happiness streaming down her face. "I love you so much," Cole said. "Both of you." He dropped to his knees and placed his hands gently on her still flat stomach. "Hello in there," he said softly. "I am your father, and I already love you more than I can say. I promise to protect you and provide for you and teach you everything I know. You are already so wanted, little one." Tabitha ran her fingers through his hair, overwhelmed by the tenderness of the moment. This man, who had carried her burdens when they were too heavy, who had shown her what partnership truly meant, was going to be a father. Their child would be so lucky to have him. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Tabitha found herself more tired than usual. Cole took on extra work around the house without complaint, insisting she rest when she needed to. He was attentive without being overbearing, excited without being anxious. In July, James came for a visit and was thrilled by the news. "I am going to be an uncle," he kept saying, shaking his head in amazement. "Who would have thought? You should think about settling down yourself," Tabitha teased. "You are not getting any younger." "I will leave the family building to you for now," James said, but there was something wistful in his expression that made Tabitha wonder if he was lonelier at the mines than he let on. Before he left, James pulled Cole aside again. "Take care of her," he said. "Childbirth is dangerous even with good doctors." "I know," Cole said seriously. "I am going to make sure she has the best care possible. The doctor in town is experienced, and Martha Cunningham has offered to be there as well. She has attended many births." "Good," James said. "Write to me when the baby comes. I will come back as soon as I can." The months passed in a blur of preparation. Tabitha sewed tiny clothes while Cole built a cradle from wood he had carefully selected and sanded smooth. They turned the small room off their bedroom into a nursery, painting the walls a cheerful yellow and hanging curtains that let in the sunlight. As Tabitha's belly grew, Cole became even more protective. He insisted on driving her to and from town whenever she needed to go, helped her with tasks that were becoming difficult as her center of gravity shifted, and read to her in the evenings while she sewed, his hand often resting gently on her stomach, feeling the baby kick. "Strong little thing," he would say with pride. "Takes after the mother," or the father, Tabitha would reply. "You are the strongest person I know." In early December, as snow began to fall in earnest, Tabitha woke in the middle of the night to a sensation she had been told to expect, but that still took her by surprise. She touched Cole's shoulder gently. "Cole," she said, "I think it is time." He was awake instantly, pulling on clothes and stoking the fire to make sure the house would be warm. Then he helped her into her warmest dressing gown and settled her in the chair by the hearth. "I am going to ride for the doctor and Martha," he said, pulling on his coat. "Will you be all right for an hour?" "I will be fine," Tabitha said, more confident than she felt. "Go quickly." Cole kissed her forehead. "I love you. I will be back as soon as I can." True to his word, he returned within the hour, the doctor and Martha with him. Martha immediately took charge, shooing the men from the bedroom and helping Tabitha into a clean nightgown. "How are the pains?" she asked, all business now despite her usual warmth. "Coming regularly," Tabitha said, gripping the bedpost as another contraction rolled through her. "Every few minutes." "That is good," Martha said. "Means things are progressing well." The labor was long and exhausting, lasting through the rest of the night and into the morning. Cole stayed close, allowed back into the room at Tabitha's request, holding her hand through the contractions and wiping her face with a cool cloth. He murmured encouragement and love, never flinching even when she gripped his hand hard enough to hurt. Finally, as the winter sun rose over the mountains, their son was born, wailing his displeasure at being thrust into the cold world. The doctor caught him expertly, and Martha cleaned him quickly before wrapping him in a soft blanket and placing him in Tabitha's arms. "A boy," the doctor said, smiling, "healthy and strong." Tabitha looked down at her son, at his tiny red face and dark hair, and felt her heart expand in ways she had not known were possible. Cole leaned over them both, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "He is perfect," Cole whispered. "Absolutely perfect." "What will you name him?" Martha asked, tidying up the room. Tabitha looked at Cole. They had discussed names but never quite settled on one. Now, looking at their son, she knew. "Carter," she said. "Carter James Mercer, after no one in particular but because it feels right." "And James for my brother." "Carter James Mercer," Cole repeated, trying it out. I like it very much." He reached out a finger and the baby wrapped his tiny hand around it, gripping with surprising strength. "Hello, Carter," Cole said softly. "Welcome to the world, son." The doctor and Martha stayed for a few more hours, making sure both mother and baby were doing well, then departed with promises to check back in a few days. Cole sent a telegram to James that simply read, "You are an uncle. Carter James Mercer born this morning. Mother and baby both well." The reply came that evening. "Congratulations. We'll visit in spring. Tell Tabitha I am proud of her." The early weeks of parenthood were exhausting but joyful. Carter was a good baby, relatively calm, though he had his moments of fussiness like any infant. Tabitha recovered well from the birth, and soon she and Cole had settled into a rhythm of caring for their son while managing the ranch. Cole proved to be a devoted father, taking his turn walking the floor with a crying baby in the middle of the night, changing nappies without complaint, and gazing at Carter with such obvious love that it made Tabitha fall in love with him all over again. Winter passed slowly, as it always did in Colorado. They spent long evenings by the fire, Carter sleeping in his cradle while Tabitha and Cole talked or read or simply sat in comfortable silence. Sometimes Cole would hold his son and sing to him, old songs he remembered from his own childhood, his rough voice surprisingly gentle. Spring arrived with the usual drama of melting snow and mud everywhere, but also with new life. Their cattle had survived the winter well, and several cows were pregnant, promising to increase their herd. Cole worked from dawn to dusk, caring for the cattle and making repairs around the ranch, but he always made time for his family. True to his word, James arrived in April, bearing gifts for his nephew and news of his own. "I met someone," he said over dinner on his first evening there. "Her name is Sarah, and she works in the boarding house where I stay. She is kind and smart, and she makes me want to be a better man." "That sounds serious," Tabitha said, delighted. "It is," James admitted. "I am thinking of leaving the mines, coming back to this area, maybe buying my own piece of land nearby." "That would be wonderful," Cole said. "We could help each other out and Carter would grow up knowing his uncle." James held his nephew carefully, the baby looking impossibly small in his large, work-roughened hands. "I would like that," he said. "I would like that very much." Over the next year, James made good on his intentions. He left the mines, married Sarah in a quiet ceremony, and bought 100 acres adjacent to Cole and Tabitha's land. The two families became a support system for each other, helping with cattle drives and harvest, celebrating holidays together, building the kind of community that made the hard work of ranching bearable. Carter grew from a baby into a toddler, learning to walk and then run, chattering constantly in his own language before gradually learning real words. He had Cole's green eyes and Tabitha's smile, and a fearless curiosity that sometimes gave his parents heart attacks. "He is going to be a handful," Cole said one evening after rescuing Carter from an attempt to climb into the cattle pen. "He takes after his father," Tabitha said, not without pride. Life settled into a comfortable pattern. The ranch grew slowly but steadily, providing a good living if not a wealthy one. Tabitha taught occasionally when the town needed extra help, but mostly she focused on raising Carter and helping Cole with the ranch work. She also, in her spare moments, began writing the stories she had always dreamed of, filling notebook after notebook with tales of the West. When Carter was 3, Tabitha became pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy felt easier somehow, perhaps because she knew what to expect. Their daughter was born in early autumn, during the golden season when the aspens turned the mountainsides to flame. They named her Clara, and she had Tabitha's brown hair and Cole's determination. Where Carter was adventurous and energetic, Clara was thoughtful and observant, watching everything with her serious eyes. "We have a balanced set now," Cole joked, holding his daughter while Carter climbed all over him, demanding attention. "Are we done?" Tabitha asked, both hopeful and uncertain. "That is up to you," Cole said seriously. "I am happy with whatever you want. 2 is good, 3 would be good, 10 would be good, though that might be excessive." Tabitha laughed. "Let us stop at 2 for now and see how we manage." The children grew and the ranch prospered. Cole's reputation as a fair dealer and honest rancher spread, and he found himself able to command good prices for his cattle. Tabitha published some of her stories in magazines back east, earning modest sums but more importantly, earning respect as a writer. When Carter was 8 and Clara was 5, Tabitha found herself pregnant once more, a surprise but a welcome one. Their third child, another boy they named Daniel, was born healthy and loud, announcing his presence to the world with gusto. 3, Cole said, holding Daniel while their older children peered at their new brother with fascination. 3 seems like a perfect number. 3 is plenty, Tabitha agreed, tired but happy. The years passed in a blur of activity. Cattle to tend, children to raise, a home to maintain. But through it all, the love between Cole and Tabitha never wavered. If anything, it deepened, tempered by the challenges they faced together and strengthened by their shared commitment to their family and their life. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Cole took Tabitha back to the place where they had first shared a meal, the spot by the creek with the cottonwoods. The children stayed with James and Sarah, giving them a rare day alone together. "You remember our first picnic here?" Cole asked as they sat on a blanket, much as they had a decade ago. "I remember everything about that day," Tabitha said. "I remember thinking I had never felt so cared for, so seen." "I knew that day I was going to marry you," Cole said. "I did not know how or when, but I knew." "It has been a good 10 years, Tabitha said, leaning against his shoulder. "Hard sometimes, but good." "The best of my life," Cole agreed. "You know, I still think about that day I saw you with those buckets, how you were struggling but trying so hard not to show it, how brave you were." "I did not feel brave," Tabitha said. "I felt overwhelmed and alone." "But you kept going," Cole said. "That is what bravery is, keeping going even when things are hard." "You taught me I did not have to keep going alone," Tabitha said softly. "You taught me that letting someone help is not weakness, it is wisdom." Cole kissed the top of her head. "We have taught each other so much." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the creek, watching the clouds drift across the sky. After a while, Cole spoke again. "I was thinking we should write down our story," he said. "For the children, so they know how we met and fell in love, so they understand where they came from." "That is a lovely idea," Tabitha said. "I could write it, add it to my other stories." "I would like that," Cole said. "I want them to know how lucky I felt the day I carried those buckets for you, how it was the best decision I ever made, approaching you in the street." "The best decision I ever made was saying yes when you asked to court me," Tabitha said. "Well, that and marrying you. Only two good decisions." Cole teased. "Having the children was a good decision too," Tabitha allowed. "Even when Daniel broke Martha's vase last week," Cole laughed. "He felt terrible about that." "I know he did," Tabitha said. "He has a good heart like his father." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, they packed up their picnic and headed home. The ride back was peaceful, their horses moving at an easy walk, Cole's hand reaching over occasionally to touch Tabitha's, a simple gesture of connection that still gave her a thrill even after 10 years. The house was full of noise and life when they returned. James and Sarah had brought their own children over, and the house seemed to vibrate with the energy of 6 children running around. But it was a good noise, a happy noise, the sound of family and love. That night, after the children were finally asleep, Cole and Tabitha sat on their porch as they often did, looking up at the stars. "Thank you," Cole said quietly. "For what?" "For this life. For our children, for loving me, for being my partner in all things." "Thank you for carrying my buckets," Tabitha said, turning to look at him. "And for carrying me in all the ways that matter every day since." Cole pulled her close and they sat together in the darkness. Two people who had found each other when they needed it most and had built something beautiful together. The ranch around them was quiet now, the cattle settled for the night, the chickens roosting, even the dogs silent. "Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if I had walked down a different street that day?" Cole asked. "Never," Tabitha said firmly, "because I believe we would have found each other somehow. Some things are meant to be." "I like that thought," Cole said. "Destiny." "Not just destiny," Tabitha said. "Choice too. You chose to help me, I chose to let you. We chose each other every day since." "And I will keep choosing you," Cole said. "Every day for the rest of my life." They sat there until the cold drove them inside, then climbed into bed together, wrapped in each other's arms. Outside, snow had begun to fall, the first of the season, covering their ranch in a blanket of white. But inside they were warm and safe and together. The years continued to pass, bringing changes and challenges as years always do. The children grew older, developing their own personalities and dreams. Carter showed an aptitude for horses, spending hours working with them, gentling colts and training them with patience he had learned from his father. Clara loved books like her mother, reading everything she could get her hands on and writing stories of her own. Daniel was a mixture of both, equally at home on horseback or with his nose in a book. When Carter turned 18, he took a more active role in running the ranch, working alongside Cole as a true partner. It freed up time for Cole to pursue other interests, including serving on the town council and helping establish a proper school building in Pueblo. Clara surprised them all by deciding to become a doctor, a bold choice for a young woman but one that Tabitha and Cole supported wholeheartedly. She went east for her education, writing long letters home about her studies and the city. The house felt empty without her, but they were proud of her courage and determination. Daniel, the youngest, seemed content to stay on the ranch, learning the business from his father and brother. He had a head for numbers and helped expand their operation, making shrewd decisions about when to buy and sell cattle. James and Sarah's children grew up alongside theirs, and the two families remained close. They celebrated holidays together, helped each other through hard times, and rejoiced in good fortune through it all. Cole and Tabitha's love remained the foundation on which everything else was built. They still sat on their porch in the evenings, still held hands when they walked, still looked at each other with the same affection and respect they had felt in those early days. On their 25th wedding anniversary, the whole family gathered for a celebration. Clara came home from her medical practice in Denver, where she had finally settled after completing her education. She brought with her a young man named Thomas, a lawyer she had met through mutual friends. It was clear from the way they looked at each other that this was serious. The party was held at the ranch, with tables set up under the cottonwood trees, much like a church social. Neighbors and friends came from all over, bringing food and good wishes. There was music and dancing, and toasts that went on until everyone was laughing and crying in equal measure. James stood up to give a toast, his hair now streaked with gray, his face weathered by years of outdoor work. 25 years ago, he said, I came home to meet the man who had been courting my sister. I was prepared to be skeptical, protective, maybe even hostile. But within 5 minutes of talking to Cole Mercer, I knew he was exactly the man my sister deserved. Someone who would love her, support her, build a life with her. I was right. Cole, you have been a better brother to me than I could have hoped for, and the best husband to Tabitha. Here is to 25 more years. Everyone cheered and drank, and then it was Cole's turn. He stood up, pulling Tabitha to her feet beside him. 25 years ago, Cole said, his voice strong and clear despite the emotion in it. I saw a woman struggling with buckets that were too heavy, and I did what any decent person would do. I helped her. What I did not know was that she would change my entire life. That she would become not just my wife but my best friend, my partner, the mother of my children, and the person who makes every single day worth living. He turned to face Tabitha fully, taking both her hands in his. You are still the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. You are still the strongest person I know, and I love you more today than I did the day I married you, which I would have thought impossible back then. Thank you for building this life with me. Thank you for our children and our home and every moment we have shared. You are my everything, Tabitha Mercer. There was not a dry eye in the crowd. Tabitha was crying openly now, and Cole pulled her into his arms, holding her close while everyone applauded. The party continued long into the evening, with the younger generation dancing while the older folks sat around the fire telling stories. Carter danced with a young woman from town that everyone suspected he was sweet on. Daniel played his fiddle, having developed quite a talent for music. Clara and Thomas sat close together, talking quietly, clearly in their own world. As the night wound down and guests began to depart, Cole and Tabitha found themselves alone on their porch once more, the sounds of the celebration fading into the distance. 25 years, Tabitha said, shaking her head in wonder. Where did the time go? Into building this, Cole said, gesturing at the ranch, the house, the life they had created. Into raising those 3 remarkable humans, into loving each other. I would not change a single thing, Tabitha said. Not even the hard parts, not even those, Tabitha confirmed. The hard parts made us stronger, made us appreciate the good parts even more. Cole pulled her close and they swayed slightly, dancing to music only they could hear. "Do you remember what I told you all those years ago? That managing and living are different things." "I remember," Tabitha said. "I think we have lived," Cole said. "Really lived, not just survived but thrived." "We have," Tabitha agreed, "and we are not done yet." "No," Cole said, smiling down at her. "We are not done yet." The years continued to unfold. Clara married Thomas in a beautiful ceremony, and they settled in Denver where both their practices were thriving. Carter married his sweetheart Emily, and they took over more of the ranch operations, allowing Cole to finally slow down a bit. Daniel, to everyone's surprise, fell in love with Sarah's niece, who came to visit one summer and never left. Grandchildren began to arrive, filling the house with noise and laughter once more. Cole and Tabitha spoiled them appropriately, telling them stories and teaching them to ride and passing on the values that had guided their own lives. On their 30th anniversary, they took a trip, something they had never done before. They traveled by train to San Francisco, staying in a real hotel and seeing the ocean for the first time. It was an adventure, strange and exciting, but after 2 weeks they were both homesick for Colorado and their family. "We are ranch people," Cole said as the train carried them home. "I cannot imagine living anywhere else." "Neither can I," Tabitha agreed. But it was good to see something different, to have this time together. When they were both 60 years old, Carter and Emily suggested they might want to move into the house in town that Tabitha had inherited from her father and kept as a rental property. It would be easier, they said, closer to the doctor as they aged, less work. But Cole and Tabitha refused. They loved their ranch, the home they had built together. They were not ready to leave it, might never be ready. "We will stay here," Cole said firmly. "This is where we belong." And so they did, growing older together in the place where they had started their life. They slowed down, certainly. Cole no longer worked from dawn to dusk, and Tabitha's hands ached too much some days to write for long. But they were happy, surrounded by family, living the life they had built. On a warm summer evening, when Cole was 70 and Tabitha was 68, they sat on their porch as they had done thousands of times before. The sun was setting, painting the mountains in shades of gold and pink. Their grandchildren were playing in the yard, their laughter carried on the breeze. "You know what I was thinking about today," Tabitha said, her hand clasped in Cole's as it had been for nearly 5 decades. "What is that?" "Those buckets," she said. "How heavy they were, how I thought I could not take another step." "I remember," Cole said softly. "I was so tired that day," Tabitha continued. "So overwhelmed by everything. I felt like I was drowning, like I would never find my footing again. And then you appeared," Tabitha said, turning to look at him. "Like an answer to a prayer I had not even known how to pray. You took the weight off my shoulders, literally and figuratively. You have been doing it ever since." "You have carried me too," Cole said. "In ways I cannot even count. We have carried each other." "We have," Tabitha agreed. "That is what love is, I think, taking turns being strong for each other. Carrying the weight when the other person cannot." "I am glad it was me that day," Cole said. "Glad I was the one walking down that street at that exact moment." "Fate," Tabitha said. "Choice," Cole countered gently. "Fate brought me there, but I chose to stop. You chose to accept help. We chose each other." "Best choice I ever made," Tabitha said. "Mine too," Cole said. "Every single day, mine too." They sat in silence as the stars began to appear one by one in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the house, someone was cooking dinner, the smell of bread drifting out through the open windows. The sounds of family surrounded them, the life they had built, the love they had nurtured. Carter came out onto the porch, his own hair beginning to gray now. "Mother, Father, dinner is almost ready. Will you come in?" In a moment, Cole said. We are just enjoying the evening. Carter smiled, understanding. Take your time. We will keep it warm. He went back inside, and Cole and Tabitha remained on the porch, watching as the first stars appeared. They were older now, their bodies showing the wear of long years of hard work. But their love was as strong as ever, perhaps stronger, burnished by time and trial into something unbreakable. Thank you, Tabitha whispered. For what? Cole asked, though he knew. For everything. For seeing me that day, for carrying my buckets, for carrying me in every way that matters, for this life, for loving me so well. Cole brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. The honor has been mine, from that very first day to this one and every day in between. You are my heart, Tabitha. You always have been. They rose slowly, helping each other up as they had learned to do, and walked into the house together, hand in hand. Inside, their family waited, 3 generations gathered around the table. This was their legacy, this love and family and home. It had all started with a simple act of kindness. A cowboy carrying buckets that were too heavy, and a woman brave enough to accept help. From that single moment, a lifetime of love had grown, spreading out like the branches of the cottonwood trees that lined their creek, providing shelter and strength and beauty. It was a good life, a full life, a life built on partnership and respect and a love that had never wavered. As they sat down to dinner, surrounded by the people who mattered most, Cole caught Tabitha's eye across the table and winked. She smiled back, that same smile that had captivated him nearly 50 years ago, and in that moment, everything was perfect. The food was passed, the conversation flowed, and outside the stars continued to appear in the Colorado sky, watching over the ranch where 2 people had built something extraordinary from the simplest of beginnings. Their story was not dramatic or filled with grand gestures, but it was real and true and beautiful. It was a story of love found in an ordinary moment, nurtured through ordinary days, and transformed into something extraordinary by the simple choice to keep choosing each other, over and over again, for all the years they were given. And they lived happily, surrounded by love until the very end of their days.